All right. And we are back and we are opening up the game Shacknews Game of the Year 2022 deliberations. We are opening this one up with Best Open World Game of 2022. That was not a clever segue at all, but I'm trying here, people. We've got like 60 of these I got to do.
They can't all be home runs, man, but that was a solid single. That was a solid single.
Hold up. We're opening up the vote in a new inaugural category, Best Open World Game.
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like this is pretty clear. Can you go anywhere you want in the world? Is it just there for you to explore? Then it's an open world. And man, oh man, I think that open world games are some of the greatest things that have come out of video games in the last couple of decades, honestly. Like sandbox environments, being able to just explore and do your thing and discover things organically in games. Pretty damn cool. And that's why we have this Best Open World Game category. And man, do we have some good nominations. It might be familiar to some of you who have been watching some of our other deliberations, but they're all great choices. And I don't know, Sam, do you want to...
I would love to talk about Elden Ring.
Do you want to talk about Elden Ring some more for like the 500th time?
Oh, mate, you know me too well. I would love to talk about Elden Ring. My reaction to open world games isn't always as positive as a lot of other people's. I don't think that it's necessarily something that you always have to do to a game to try and do something new. But Souls games have always been like quasi open world. So to see From Software fully embrace it, at first I was like, how's this going to work? But it just absolutely floored me to spend like 12 hours exploring Limgrave and then crest the hill and look over into Lyonia of the Lakes and be like, this world is phenomenal and I want to explore every single inch of it. And part of what makes an open world game for me great is the map. And you see a lot of times where a map will just be a realistic depiction of an overhead shot of the world. It'll be a one-to-one, it'll look realistic like the world does, but in Elden Ring, it is a beautifully handcrafted, hand-drawn map, whereby things aren't just marked for you straight out of the gate. Even if you find a location and clear it, it's not going to tell you that it's cleared. So you have to kind of do your own legwork here. You have to go and figure out, hey, that little like blur on the map, is that anything? And so I really enjoyed opening up the map and looking and realizing that the little like burn mark was a mine that I could go and visit in each area and find the next upgrade material. So when I went into a new area, I'd open up the map and I'd rip it open, I'd scour it for this next mine so that I can go and do it. And then there were some inconsistencies with the map, whereby the world you're exploring is just a relic of its former self. And so the map might have a pathway, but in reality, that's not how it is in the game because something has happened. Something's fallen over. It's blocked your progress. So you now need to investigate the map and figure out another way through. And a good it doesn't have those sort of and I'll call it a trope now, the Ubisoft towers, where you got to climb a tower to reveal the location. And it doesn't have that, and I really think that it's a testament to From, eking their own path through this heavily trodden genre.
Yeah,
of open world.
Yeah, I'm not really. I mean, here's the thing that I find really cool about Elden Ring is so much of the game comes from the community's like discoveries and engagements with each other. Like even the way you can like leave notes for people, whether or not you're being a dick and like lying to them, or like if there's something really there. But like just in the way like people are going to go in different directions and everyone's going to approach the game differently, and that is the narrative basically. The story revolves around however you choose to explore the world, and I think that is really cool that the open world is the story in a lot of ways, and you create the story around that environment. It's very Dungeons and Dragons, and I love that kind of storytelling where it doesn't feel like it's on a rail. So even though I suck at it, even though I can't play it for shit, that was something that I found really intriguing about Elden Ring
For sure.
is the world and the lore behind it.
Yeah. If I can expand on that a bit, like
No,
typically in an open world.
can't.
Okay. All right. Nice.
No, go ahead.
Typically an open world game, it's a single player game, you're by yourself. But in Elden Ring, like you said, there can be messages, and so there's that connectivity whereby you're exploring this world by yourself, but there's also other people there, and you can, then you got the co-op element as well, where you can bring in a friend. And,
then there's
the world.
TJ.
Guy finger butthole.
Not helpful at all, TJ.
So
Yeah, that's speaking of tropes. That's definitely one. But just to piggyback off Sam, my partner and I We've played all these Souls games together, side by side, and we spent countless hours this year just running around the open world of Elden Ring. And we'd kind of take turns, like, I want to go over there, and then she'd say, I want to go over here, and we would just find what we could find. And it was so much fun. We've had fun in these games before, but I don't think anything has come close to just the shared sense of discovery that we had playing Elden Ring, each for the first time. And because usually I'll play these games first, and then she'll come through, and I'll just kind of let her take the lead so I don't spoil anything. But this time it was all fresh and new for us. And that was
Oh, David, you're telling your own love story in Elden Ring with your sweetie pie. I love it. It's so adorable. That's adorable. It's so cute. It's so sweet, and I think it speaks to that, like, creating your own narrative. Who would have thought that you could have a rom-com in Elden Ring? David, that's who.
Right.
Yeah.
there is a lot of comedic discoverability in that game too. Like the first time you jump over a fence and the sky turns red, and you look around and you're getting scarlet rot, and there's giant crows trying to jab your eyes out, and big-headed T-Rex dogs trying to one-hit kill you, and you realize, I've wandered into hell.
Well, it's the recordings. Amy and I have it great because like a dragon appear, and she's like, "Run away!" and I'm like, "Let's go!" and we just kind of cross, and it's good times. It's good times. I think that I know some people don't like that in co-op you can't use torrent, but I actually like that because if everyone could use torrent, everyone would just be sprinting off in any direction. The fact that you have to stay on foot means you're encouraged to stay together rather than just kind of racing off to do your own thing, which would really break the immersion in that sort of experience. I would say.
Okay, that's good.
I have a nomination.
Yes, I was about to say, let's get going.
And I acknowledge all of the lovely things about Elden Ring as well. So, but I love no game as much as I love an open world game done properly, and the world is key. And so I would like to nominate again, and I know we've talked about it in other categories, Horizon Forbidden West. And the sell for this is that the entire world is actually in play. What I mean by that is the water is in play. There's a world in the water that you can explore, that you can engage with, that you can use, that sometimes requires missions, whatever. The sky is in play in that you can fly around the world, and the ground is in play. So one of the things that, and it's not a knock on Elden Ring, but I just thought you could actually make more use. Like the world wasn't just kind of held into this box of like what you see when you're on the ground, even if you're on a horse or if you're on like some other on a machine that you've tamed. But being able to fly around and explore the world from an entirely different perspective, it's almost like generating a second world. It's almost like taking a new look and a fresh look at something that already exists.
It's like sorry, Bill.
No,
it's like the environment as a tool, basically. Right?
Yeah, it's
like part of your arsenal.
A lot of times when you're in an open world, and some of the best open worlds in the world are open world games ever. You know, they're amazing, but you see the sky, and the sky is up there, right? You're not doing anything with it. You can't really do anything with it, and I don't think it's a knock when a game doesn't, but I think it is a feather in the cap of Horizon Forbidden West that it is literally sea, land, or air. Whatever it is you want to explore, you can explore. And you can use the full availability of the world to do so. And it also, of course, like, one of my personal measurements about whether an open world game is good or not is whether I want to fast travel. If I start fast traveling and how quickly I start fast traveling, that's a knock in my book against the world. That doesn't happen in Horizon Forbidden West, and it's very rare it doesn't happen with a game. I'm always more interested in seeing what will happen along the way, or what will I discover, or what will I spot. So I view fast traveling in that game almost as denying myself the opportunity to discover something. And I would rather walk there, or I would rather fly there. And yeah, I think it's an absolutely beautiful take on an open world. I think the way that you traverse it is genius, um, and not limited to just, on the ground, so to speak. Yeah, I'll let someone else, if they want to jump in on it, speak on it, but it is definitely my open world
It
game
has
of
a
the year.
sense of verticality, is what I think Bill's trying to say too. Like, there's not just you can have this
Yeah.
huge world you can explore, which is great, but if you're able to explore it on multiple levels, like, and be able to free roam in those levels, that adds another depth to the already huge world. Being able to
Well,
explore
yeah,
from.
totally, Greg. Like if you're looking at like a base, for example, right? And and in many open world games, you might have to go clear this location. That's very common. And you look at it and you're like, well, there's a gate here, and there's a gate here, and there's a secret entrance here. It's like, no, there's the sky, and I'll just fly to where I want to approach it from, and approach it from something that wasn't ever necessarily like an obvious method. Like I can approach that from a direction that just isn't possible in other games, and that's you know present throughout all of Horizon Forbidden West.
I think just as an addendum, because that sounds awesome, but I also one thing I loved about Elden Ring is there's a time where I reached the northernmost point of the map, and I could see down in the canyon below there was a rotunda, and I kept trying on the surface. Sam probably knows where I'm going with this. I was trying to
I know
get to it,
exactly.
and I was circling it, like, how do I get into this thing? And then a while back, I had discovered an elevator that descended for about 30 seconds into an entire subterranean city. And I realized I had to go through the subterranean city, and I was kind of like charting my progress on the map, looking at where I was below, and then seeing how it reflected on the surface until I, sure enough, came up into the rotunda from the subterranean city. And that was a really cool moment.
Yeah, I don't know. That I think that speaks to those like creating your own narrative experiences that we're talking about later for sure.
Well,
Um,
that's what open world games are in large part because of, by their very nature.
Mhm.
yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that city though, because I think that that's a huge part of Elden Ring. I mean, we won't. I'm not going to elaborate on it, but the discovery of that was something very special.
Right.
yeah. All right. Well, we got a couple more nominations. One of them interesting, and one of them uh, kind of a surprise, kind of a curveball from our own Greg Burkleton Burke here. Um, Greg, what's your nomination?
So I know it's gonna get a lot of eye rolls and shrugs, but Gotham Knights, that game released to like really mixed heavily reviews. Even Ozzy's review, like, it's like it's okay, like it's not that bad, it's not good, but like,
Objection. No, no. It's fine. Greg, keep going.
oh, as a but like as a Batman fan though, like if you're familiar with the mythos and the comics, David, you're a Batman fan too. Like the stuff that's in this world that you get to openly explore is awesome. Like everything that you would want in a Batman game just to see and look around. Like I spend hours in that game just on the motorcycle or grappling, just looking at locations. Like I've visited Arkham Asylum, the Iceberg Lounge, Blackgate Chemitentry, like Ace Chemicals, which was being rebuilt because something in the game said that it had been blown up a few years later, so they were building that. You can go to the Monarch Theater, you can go to Crime Alley, and the map is huge. It's bigger than Arkham Knight. If you guys have played Arkham Knight, that's how it's bigger than that. I don't know how much bigger, but
Yeah,
it's bigger than that.
yeah, to that
But
point, and for the purposes of this category, I've said on at least one occasion that this is the biggest Gotham City we've seen so far in a game.
yeah, but the problem is, to me at least, a lot of it felt like filler. And also the way that it's broken up with those bridges, like it makes it a real pain in the ass to get from like the south to the north of the city and stuff like that.
Yeah, on the other
Like
side of the coin, to Bill's point, I couldn't wait to unlock fast travel in that game. I couldn't get there fast enough. I was like, okay, I cannot ride this slow ass bat cycle anymore.
I gotta say,
Yeah.
Greg, I am a Batman fan. I don't know if I've ever shown you this. This is my wedding ring. Amy customized it. Kind of a Batman fan. I was so excited for this game, and then I read Ozzy's review and I watched some other reviews, and I don't know that Bruce Wayne could cut a large enough check to get me to buy this at full price.
Man,
I
it,
uh, I'm going to pick it up because I think like Amy's expressed interest in co-oping, but as soon as I found out that like you have to like grind to like open up like your basic navigation tools, like I also have to bring a point. I used to love open world games, but this idea that bigger maps equals more fun is so fundamentally flawed. Like there's so much filler in these games. The best Arkham open world game I think was Arkham City because it was the smallest, and I still couldn't finish it. Arkham Asylum I think is the best because it was just more intimate and more well designed in every conceivable way. So this idea that bigger equals better, I think, is a fallacy. Honestly,
I
yeah,
think you're
that's
right. I think you're right, David, and that kind of actually does tie back to fast traveling. Is that like if you want to fast travel, it means that the space between point A and point B isn't filled with something that you want to
yeah,
do. So no
yeah,
matter what size the world is, like if you would rather walk or,
I
not
mean that's
fast
the
travel.
thing. Ever since GTA 3, really, and there were open world games before. I mean, the original Legend of Zelda was sort of an open world game, but like traveling has to be fun, not fast travel, but the primary mode of travel should be fun. I think of Infamous, like I loved power grinding on all the like electrical lines and railroad tracks and stuff. I think it's even there's that you could make a case that in GTA 5 it's fun to just hop in a cab and look at the simulation that Rockstar has built. But I don't completely agree. Like sometimes I'm like I want to do a thing and I want to get there now and do the thing. But I also like if I'm into like I talked about with Elden Ring and another argument with Torrent, I'm cool with just kind of taking my time and riding Torrent to where I want to go because exploring the world is that fun. And yeah, the size of the map in that game I think actually works psychologically because it's not littered with icons. It's very much in the brain of the vein of Breath of the Wild, where if there's an icon on that map, I did something to cause it to be there rather than it just overwhelming me with icons upon icons, a bunch of side quests that are all
yeah.
copy pasted.
Yeah.
I
If
want
I
to
can just visit that for a second, because you talked about the pacing and the wanting to maybe explore. Elden Ring does it whereby the first couple of areas where you're spending probably the first half of the game are quite large, whereas as you head into the end game, the areas get smaller as
Yeah.
you maybe don't want to spend as much time exploring and just kind of want to like bash out the couple last bosses.
It's one of the ways that game tells you like it's almost it's kind of narrowing, like you are on
Yeah,
the
it's
path to
funneling
the
you.
climax,
Yeah.
you know, and that's really cool.
Well, I just want to say one more thing about Batman, and then we'll move on to the last one. The other problem with that is the levels are not open world. You enter an environment and you play the level, and then you're out of it, and you can't go back in and explore it. And I think that's a real miss, and it definitely takes away from the openness because the Arkham series has not been like that at all. Like the levels were part of the open world environment. In the last couple of games. But that's a little nitpick for me. Donovan, you've got one more nomination for this category, and it's not too surprising.
Oh, do I thought I was on
Oh wait, no, I'm
Team
sorry, it's
Elden Ring.
TJ.
Yeah.
It's TJ. I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm just so
I'm
used to
Team
you.
Elden Ring.
I'm
No.
sorry. I just assume anything Pokemon is you, Donovan. My bad. I forget. TJ loves Pokemon just as much as you.
I don't actually, and here's where
Okay, well then no
Here's-
Pokemon. No.
here's why I put what I put on my nomination. I nominated Pokemon Legends Arceus. That open world has changed, and I'm gonna say I do realize I know very well, Donovan, that there's a caveat on that where it's not actually so much open world as much as it is open zone, which is what we're gonna start saying now that Sonic Frontiers coined that. I still think it's enough of the same thing where like functionality is just crosses right over. Pokemon Legends Arceus has changed that franchise for the better on so many levels. Pokemon Arceus walked so that open world and future Pokemon games could run. And I think it's one of the most fun parts of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Here's why. I have bounced off of these games since around, I would say, Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red. It's been a pretty no. I played Pokemon XY and that's where I bounced off. Because generally they do the same thing where they give you this illusion of a world to explore, and then you have to go along a linear path on your way through the gyms, through the leveling, through collecting the Pokemon, through doing the events until you arrive at the Elite Four and win. And Legends Arceus was the first game in this franchise where they finally just said, "No, you don't have to do that. Just go out there and explore." And not only that, but not hiding the Pokemon behind tall grass anymore. You don't just have to wade into tall grass and wait for a battle to happen, or dread walking through a field of tall grass and being hit with random encounters over and over again. The Pokemon are actually on the world map now. And that's effective to me in a couple ways. Not only does it give more life to the world, because you're actually living in the space where the Pokemon are also wandering around and doing their thing, but I can't tell you how many times in these last two games I've stopped what I was doing and I started looking around to see if there was something I hadn't caught yet or if something I hadn't seen yet. I like a game where I can just wander around and trip into a situation or an encounter that I haven't been in before. And this open world setup works so well for Pokemon in that way, where if I'm in a new area, the first thing I'll do is I'll stop for a bit and I'll see if there's something I haven't caught before around the area. And then sometimes it won't be just wandering around in the ground. It might be in water. It might be up a tree. It might be hanging on the side of a cliff. I love it. They've made Pokemon feel like it. Pokemon was always supposed to be a world of amazing creatures that you discover along the way. And by adding that to Arceus Legends and bringing that and improving upon it in Scarlet and Violet, they've made the world of Pokemon feel alive and interesting and made me want to stop and take it in at nearly every point of the venture.
Can't tell you
Yeah.
how thrilling it was to run into an alpha Snorlax for the first time, and then how terrifying it was when I made it angry.
Man,
It's chasing after you.
the important thing here is, TJ, is how many Psyducks did you collect, and how high are their levels?
I caught a Psyduck and I leveled it up to a Golduck. So I don't know if that's a deal breaker for you. I like Golduck a lot.
Psyduck's better than Golduck. Overruled.
But the bottom line here is that the open world of Pokemon Legends Arceus isn't confined to Pokemon Legends Arceus. It's a step forward and a new chapter for that whole franchise, and I love. And it's actually gotten me back into that franchise for the first time since Pokemon XY.
I think I agree. It's a really good step for the franchise. It makes a lot of sense given just sort of the themes of Pokemon as well. So yeah, it's a big move for them, for sure. But I think, is that everything? Do we have any more nominations for best open world game? Let's check the absentee ballots. I'm looking, and Gotham Knights in there randomly. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, it looks like it is time to vote. So, Greg, who are you voting for?
I'll just throw my vote away and say Gotham Knights.
Definitely throwing your vote away there, buddy.
Well, I didn't get a chance to really counter argue anyone's point before I was switched over to TJ, so it's like Elden Ring is better, and I got cut off, and then just with the TJ. So
I'm sorry, Greg. I
Greg.
genuinely wasn't saying that. I was just saying, as a Batman fan, I couldn't align with you there, but I do want to try that game when
I
it's
want
on
you to try
sale.
it because, you wander around, which is kind of cool. And I got a call from Red Hood saying Star Labs is being broken into. That stuff was just, as a Batman. I mean, maybe not for everybody, but for a Batman fan, I thought that was awesome. I'm like, oh, sick.
I don't know. It has a lot of things in it that are very good for fans and things like that, but also like I was saying earlier, the a lot of the city just feels like filler to me, and a lot of the ways you interact with the city become repetitious quickly. I only played that game for a few hours, but I was already tired of all the crimes that you have to stop. They're all very generic, where it's like you show up, you beat some guys up, and maybe like it tries to copy the Spider-Man formula, but it doesn't have the
Which is
thing to
ironic
it.
because Spider-Man copied the Arkham formula in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Those Spider-Man open world games have been around for a long time. Like Spider-Man 2 definitely came out before the Arkham series and has been doing the open world thing for a while. Ultimate Spider-Man, another fine example of a open world Spider-Man game that came before Batman open world.
You're not wrong, but the Arkham open world games have had a much bigger influence on open world design over the last.
Oh, I mean, I think that's fair. I think like the combat too has also been extremely influential. But I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna say like, you know, Batman did it first before Spider-Man, I don't think that's entirely accurate, though. So that's why I thought I'd mention it. But Greg, you voted for Gotham Knights. I'm glad that you liked it. And Donovan, are you sticking with Elden Ring?
Yeah, for sure.
David, I'm just gonna ask you while you're coughing. What are you voting for?
No worries. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Elden Ring. There are a lot of pretty compelling open world games this year, but Elden Ring, I really feel like that's there's like a new branch on the open world design family tree now, and I feel like Elden Ring and Miyazaki has spoken to like Zelda being a big influence, and I really feel like he took a lot of influence from Breath of the Wild specifically in this, and how it kind of sets out to not overwhelm you with the paradox of choice, and I really like that. So yeah, Elden Ring for me for sure.
Coolness. Morgan.
Surprisingly, for this category, I'm going to vote for Elden Ring.
Elden Ring getting the votes. Ozzy.
I am also going to say Elden Ring. I think above any other open world game this year, it's the one where you can start out and you could feel like you could go anywhere and there's no wrong answer.
And to that point, I think one reason the game sold like 12 million copies in a week or whatever was because, you know, Souls games have this reputation, which I think is overblown, of being hard. In this game, if you're stuck somewhere that is too hard, in most cases, there's at least one exception, but in most cases, you can be like, nah, and just go somewhere else. And I think that's an option that, you know, in Dark Souls 1, a quasi-open world, as Sam put it, you might have like two options. And if they're both hard, you can really feel like you're hitting a brick wall. But in Elden Ring, you know, it's so accessible compared to the other games in this franchise.
Word. TJ.
Legends Arceus. I feel like the opening chapter to the open world Pokemon game is so incredible, and it's just going to get better.
All right. I guess I'm up. I'm sticking with Elden Ring. As like I said, as hard as it is for me to like really sink my teeth into it, I really do appreciate like the massive undertaking that world is. Yeah, Sam, are you not voting for Elden Ring?
I'm gonna cast my vote for Elden Ring. I think it's revolutionized not only the Soulsborne genre but the open world genre, and it's set a new bar for what I expect an open world game to achieve.
Awesome. Well, I guess that just leaves you, Mr. Bill Lavoie.
And any write-ins, but yes. You know what? It's obviously a landslide not in my favor, but I'm going to make sure that we represent Horizon Forbidden West with a vote.
That's fair. But yeah, let's talk absentee ballots here. Well, Asif also thinking Elden Ring is the way to go. So that's another vote for Elden Ring. Let's see. Denny voted for Elden Ring as well. I'm starting to sense a pattern.
Same for Steve.
Same for Steve. Steve gave us an Elden Ring vote as well. And I think there you have it, folks. An overwhelming majority for Elden Ring to be the best open world game of 2022.
Never met someone with a taste for brawn or contrast. We'd make good mates, I reckon.
I bid thee travel the path of the Lord, and one soul is done.